Hello everyone, so welcome back to another video, and in today's video I'm going to talk about top 10 Power BI interview questions for beginners. So this is the set of 10 interview questions that has been asked frequently for the positions of Power BI developer, data analyst or business analyst, where there is a primary requirement of Power BI. So if you are appearing in your interviews, so please make sure that you practice and you just go through this all the 10 questions, and it may be possible that you can come across such kind of questions in your interviews as well. So without further ado, let's get started. So question number 1 is, what is difference between append queries and merge queries? Okay, so these are nothing but the ways of combining datas from two or more tables and make new tables or do a transformation in the existing table. So what do I mean by that? In SQL we perform join, or we perform union of the tables so that we get the unified view of the data. So similar to that, here our focus is to combining two or more queries into a single query, so that we will have the unified view of the data. And this is the technique of data transformation, I would say. So let's look one by one what is this. So append queries. So append queries is like you perform union in SQL. So similar to that, append queries are here in the Power Query editor. So what happens, you are having suppose two set of data, cells 2019 and cells 2020, in both separate tables, but you are having the same structure of the data. What do I mean by same structure? So you have the same number of columns plus the same column names as well as same column data types. So your requirement is to merge, just combine the data and make the new query out of the two queries. So let me show you the example. So let's jump into the Power BI desktop. Okay, so here I am in the Power Query editor. So you can see that I am having two queries here, 2019 sales and 2020 sales, right? And if I look at the column names, so order ID, product, sales amount and year, and same column names and data type I am having here. So my need is to have all the data at one place. So what I would do, I would combine all these two tables by using the append queries option. So for that you have to select the table, like I'm selecting here cells 2019, and either you can choose this, you can go here this drop down, and from here you can choose this option which is append queries. And one alternate way is to go to the home tab, and here from the home tab in the combine option you will see this option merge queries and merge queries as new. Similarly append queries and append queries as new. So append queries, it means in this table I would like to append the data of sales 2020. So there would not be any another new query. All the appending would be happen in my existing query, like the selected query. But when I will do append queries as new, so my new query, or I can say new table, would be created. So let's look at the example. What I'm gonna do, I am select this option which is append queries as new. Once I do that, so first table it is asking which is cell 2019, and second table, what table I would like to append with this table, so cells 2020. If I am having two, if I am trying to append more than two tables, so I can select this option and I can drag all my tables that I would like to append. But here in case I am just having two queries, so I am just selecting this option. So once I do that, cells 2019 and cells 2020, I have to click OK. Okay, so let's look what happened. So in 2019 I am having 4 rows of the data. In 2020 as well I am having the 4 rows of the data, and in new query I am having 8 rows of the data. So it means my rows the number of rows in my query has increased. So whenever you answer the question, so just mention that when we append the data, so we have a more number of rows, because our data grows vertically. Like here I initially I was just having the 4 rows of the data, but now I'm having the 8 rows of the data. So the vertical expansion of the data has become. Now the question is that suppose if from 2019 and 2020 table I am having the same column names, order ID, product, sales amount and year, and the same data type as well. So what will happen if I change the data type? So let's suppose in 2019 for the year column I change this data type to text. I will do that from here. Okay, and now if I look at the appended table, so you can see here if like I'm having the mismatch in the data, even then it has appended the table, but it has not picked up the formatting correctly. It is confused like what data type to give to this particular column, which is ABC or 1 2 3. It can be both. So like you have to set up from here. So even if there is a mismatch in the data, your rows will get appended, mismatch in the data types, but you will not have the correct data type of the column. Now one question is that let's suppose from 2019 I remove this column. Okay, so like the condition for appending the tables is that you have the same number of columns in both the queries. So in 2019 I'm just left out with 3 columns, and in 2020 I'm having one additional year column, like just suppose for now. So what will happen in the appended table? So you can see I will have the year column as well, but since from the 2019 I have removed that column, so for the rows where I don't find any match, I will have the null values, and in 2020 I have the year column, so it has correctly picked up. So many times interviewer try to confuse you with the follow-up questions in the append queries, so you can answer like that. If I am not having the same number of columns in the queries, so for the columns, if I don't, for a particular column, if I don't find any kind of data, so it fill ups the null values. Similarly, if there is a mismatch in the data type of the columns, so it will append the queries but will not allow the correct data type. So this is how you can answer the question. So this is all about the append queries. Now let's talk about the merge queries. So here I will just delete this for the sake of simplicity. Okay, so here you can see this is the sales table, and I'm having sales ID, customer ID, product and amount column, and this is my customer table, which is customer ID, column name and reason. Now my requirement is that like how do we join the queries, or I can say tables in the SQL. We should have the common column in both the queries if I want to merge them. So here you can see I'm having the customer ID column common in both the queries. So it means that the condition of the merge is met here. Now in my sales table I need to bring, like for this particular customer, what was his name or address, such kind of attributes I like to bring in this table. So for such kind of transformation, if there is a common column, so I can do merge queries. How? I will go here, I will select the table and merge queries. Okay, so here the window will appear, and here it has picked up the sales table, and from here I will pick up the customer table. Now I need to match the common column between the table, so I can press the control key, I can choose this, and from the customer table I can pick up this customer ID column. Once you do that, so here you can see the selection matches 4 of the 4 rows from the table. You can choose the join type as well, left outer, right outer, depending upon your condition, so situation, or the requirement. So here I am picking up the inner join, and I will click OK. So now it has bring the customer table based on this customer ID column. So if I would like to have some column, so I can simply choose this expand column option. Suppose I want to have the customer name in my table, so I can click here, I can select this option and click OK. So from the another table, which is the related table, I have picked up the customer column. So this is how you can answer the question. And one thing to notice is that in when you do merge queries, so there is no expansion in the rows but expansion in the one additional columns. So you can also distinguish between the merge and append, that when we merge, so we have the additional columns, but when we append, we don't have the additional columns but additional rows. So that's all about the question number first. Okay, so let's solve question number second, which is what is difference between sum and SumX DAX function. So DAX is a data analysis expression that lets us do the various kind of calculations in Power BI desktop. So sum and SumX DAX functions are the summarization DAX function that lets us do sum on the particular column or between two or more columns, but in the different context. So what do I mean by that? Let's jump into the Power BI desktop and have a look. So to make the things simple, I'm using this simple data set: order ID, product, quantity, and unit price. So first let's talk about sum function. So basically what sum function does, it takes column as an argument. So for like performing sum to the column, we need a sum function. So basically sum takes column should be numeric because we always add numbers, not the text. So make sure that whatever column you are using inside the sum, it must be a numeric column, otherwise it will throw error. So suppose like here I want to know how much total quantity I have sold. So how would I go about that? I would simply click on new measure and I would write total quantity and I start writing sum function. So here you can see it takes column name as an argument and it adds all the numbers in a column simply. Not a rocket science, just pass a quantity column and it will give us the total quantity because it has like adds up all the values in a column. Let me so you can see 37 is my total quantity that is sold. So this is where we can use sum function, where we just want some column and we just want the values of that column added. Now let's talk about SumX function. So to make you more understand about SumX, so basically here the same data set I have imported in Excel as well. So from here you can see I want to know, like, on each row I need to perform a calculation, like what is my total revenue, because I have sold this quantity and the unit price of the product is this column. So here I need to go row by row because I cannot like do sum of this quantity column and then sum of the unit price column and then multiply those quantity into unit price. I first need to calculate like the quantity sold from the respective products unit price. I have to multiply those things and then whatever the new values I have come, I will have row by row. I need to perform the aggregation on that newly added column. So here in Excel, how can we do that? I would simply write revenue and here I can write equal to into and then hit enter. And now just double click, so you will have your new column, which is the revenue column, and here like row by row calculation is happening. 2 into 1000, 2000, 5 into 50, 250, and then at the end you will just simply write sum function and you will pass a range. So 5070 is your total revenue, right? You can write here yes. So this is your total revenue. But how you do this calculation in Power BI, because there is no cell reference in Power BI like where you go row by row and perform a calculation, because here I have just simply done a calculation for a single row or in a single cell, and then when I double click, it automatically captures the respective cells and their values and did a multiplication and it gives us the values. But like in Power BI, How can you do that? The first way is that you just add a one calculated column. So how can you do that? Go here, new column, and just write what you did in Excel. Revenue, and then quantity into unit price. But here you are making use of calculated column, but like when you make use of calculated column, it just consume memory in your data model in Power BI, and it increases the file size. And when we are working with large amount of data set and we are reporting that data set, so we should always avoid using too much calculated column, because it may affect the performance of the report, and it can just spoil the experience of the end user, when they don't get the value on the fly. So we should always avoid calculated column. Yeah, that is what I am saying. So here, like in the Excel, what I did similar to that I've done here in Power BI. I've created a revenue column, and then after creating a calculated column, I will do sum of that newly created calculated column. Sorry, total revenue equal sum of my revenue column. But as I said I first created a calculated column, and then here 5070, which is matching with our value here, right? So but for that, like, we need to perform a row by row calculation, and we have to make use of calculated column. But how can we handle this through a measure without creating a calculated column? So this is when you should use SumX function. Just go here, new measure, and I will write here total revenue, but using SumX. So this is my measure name, and I should start writing SumX, which is a iterator function that allows us to enter into the table and perform row by row calculation. Give your table name, because it is asking for first argument as a table, so you need to give a table. So here it is returns the sum of an expression evaluated for each row in a table. So you just write your expression. What is your expression? Quantity column into unit price column. Just as simple as that. Hit enter. So here, without calculating, without making use of calculated column, you could go inside the table and you could perform a row by row calculation, and then whatever the values, like here, whatever the values are coming internally in the row by row, unit price into quantity, so whatever the values are coming at the individual row, it is summing up that value. So if I show you the result, so total revenue SumX, and here you can see without using calculated column, we can enter into the table and do the row by row calculation. So this is what the difference between Sum and SumX. Sum is simple, just pass a column and it will give you, it will add up all the value in that column and give you one aggregate value. But SumX is useful when first you want that some calculation happens between one or more column. It may be multiplication, division, and then you want that whatever the values I am getting after the calculation, then you want to add up that value row by row. Then you should use SumX function. So let's look at question number 3. How many views are available on the Power BI desktop? So this is pretty straightforward questions, but interviewer may ask you this kind of questions to test you about how you keep yourself updated with the latest feature of Power BI desktop. So let's look at how many views are available. So traditionally, before, if I look at this file, we used to have only 3 particular, or I can say the principal views in the Power BI desktop, which is data view, report view, data view, and model view. But Power BI has recently added 2 more views with different functionalities. So I will tell you about that as well. So particularly I am in the report view. So how you can explain the report view to the interviewer? So report view is where you build the report, you build the visualization, you add slicers, you do formatting of the visuals. So it is all about building the visuals. Here if I talk about the interface, so you get so many options in the ribbon box, you can explore that. Then in the middle you get the canvas where you actually build the report, or I can say build the visuals. In the right you get options to add the pages, or you can right click and delete or duplicate the particular page. In the top right corner you get the zoom in function, zoom in and zoom out, you can do that. And this is a fit to page function. Then here you get 3 pens. Filter pen, this is a by default pen. You can also add like the bookmark pen or quick measure pen by going from here show pens option, but by default there is 3 pens in the right side in the report view. Filter pen, you can add filter to your data, filter to all the pages, or filter on the particular visual by selecting the visual. Then this is the visualization pane, you can select the visuals and build it like by filling the data and by formatting. And at the right options you can see the tables, measures and the column names. So this is the data view. If I this is the report view. If I talk about the data view, so data view is where you can see the actual data, like you used to see the data in the in Excel. So you can select a particular table and you can see like what data is present in your table. You can also do sorting, filtering in your data depending upon the column data type from here. And then you get some options of setting the sort by column for a particular column, making data groups, set the summarization, categorize the data, like that. So this is where you can see the data. Now there is a model view. So this is like relate the tables. You can set up the relationship between the tables, like one to many, many to one, one to one, like kind of relationship you can set between your tables. So this is a model view. And additionally there is a new feature in the semantic model, which is like the feature where you can see what calculation group you are using in your model, cultures, measures, perspective, relationships, tables, and if you have set up some roles for implementing row level security, so you can see that as well. So this is a model view. Now this is a DAX query view. So suppose this is a DAX query that I have written, so I can actually use evaluate or define kind of DAX function and run the query, and I can see the output of those queries in the form of I can say table. So if you know about the databases, so you might have used MySQL or SQL Server SSMS. So it's a kind of same interface where there is a table you can see from here and you can query your table. So in SQL you used to do through SQL, you used to write the select queries and used to run the output. Similar, you can write the DAX query here, but here you cannot write the measures, or this DAX query view also always returns a table to you. So you can run the queries, different type of DAX queries, and yes, there are some options, you can play with them as well. So this is a DAX query view. Now another view is TMDL view. So this is a recently added view. So what does it do? So it's just help you to explore your semantic model in the tabular model definition language, which is a text kind of language where you can actually set up some things that is redundant. So suppose you want to move so many measures into a folder, so with some changing in the tabular model definition language, you can do that. You can also create bulk measures, move bulk measures to another table, like that. So if I talk about that, what is TMDL language, so suppose I'm dragging this product table into this canvas. We will have to wait. Okay, so here you can see it has given us some code like what is the table name. This is a lineage tag. Internally Power BI identifies this thing. Now the column name and its properties. So this is a particular set of storing your semantic model, and you can play with these options as well. You can also see the M code that is used to make this particular query. So you can also explore more about the TMDL view, but the question remains the same. If you are the beginner, so you have to like show your skills by showing the recruiter that there are 5 views available in the data model. You have to show that I keep myself updated with the recent updates of Power BI. So if you will say just the 3 views, which is the report, data and model, then this would not be the great answer, but you have to tell about the more recently added views. So yes, this is all about this question. Okay, so let's move on and solve question number 4 in our list. So question number 4 is, what is drill through feature, and give an example when you used it in the report. So this is also one of the frequently asked question in the Power BI interview questions. So let's have a look. What is drill through feature in Power BI and how do you set up it? So let's jump into the Power BI desktop. Okay, so if I talk about the definition, so drill through in Power BI allows users to navigate from a summary report page to a more detailed page focused on a specific entity such as a customer, product or region. So this feature also helps in analyzing the data at a granular level without cluttering the main report. So I think you might not have understood about the drill through by reading its definition. So let me tell you about the practical example. So here you can see I am having one dashboard here, which is total sales quantity, customer count and some last 45 days sales, and I have set up this report page. Right, I'm also having one transactions page here which shows like date wise how many transactions, what product, category or customer has is involved in the particular transaction. So I'm having the detailed view of the data. So suppose I want to allow users to see all the transaction of this product. Now the product is summarized at the sales level. I cannot see the detailed view of this particular product or any of the product in this list. So simply what I can do, I can set up the drill through page. So from here user can move to that page and can see all the detailed records of that particular entity or the category. So here I am talking about the product entity. So let's do that. So suppose this is my drill through page. Like my user will navigate to this page for a more detailed view of the data. So for setting up the drill through, what you need to do, you just have to go here in the visualization pane, and here you can see the option drill through. Keep all filters, you have to keep it on, and you have to add the drill through fields over here. So I want to give user a privilege to see more detailed view of the particular product, like all the transactions associated with that particular product. So product would be my drill through field. So I can simply add the product from the product table. This category I can add to the drill through. Okay, now if I go here in the summarize view of the data, these are the products. Suppose I want to see all the transactions associated with this particular product, which is road 150 road. So if I hover over that, so you can see I'm now having the drill through options enabled. Previously I was not having that, but since I have added product in the drill through as a category, so now I am having the option. So I can drill through to this particular product to the more detailed view. So here I am having the option which is page 3, which is my drill through page. If I go here, so you can see all the product has been filtered out. Like I am only seeing all the transactions that is associated with this particular product because I have selected this from the summarize view of the data. Okay, so let's move ahead and solve question number 5. Difference between calculated column and measure. So if you have learned or you are learning Power BI, so you might be very familiar with this concept, which is calculated column and measure. So let me tell you theoretically what is the difference between both of the two, and then we will jump to the Power BI desktop to see the practical example. So when I talk about the calculated column, so calculated column is what just adding another new column in the particular product through DAX. So if it is a calculated column, so you might be using the DAX, or you might be using the M code in the query editor to add the column in your table. So when you are adding calculated column in your report, or I can say in your data model, so it will take the space as well, and it will evaluate row by row. So for each row you will have the new value, and that would be static, like not dynamic calculation. So suppose like if you are creating new column which is sales by doing order into quantity. So for a particular row, suppose order is quantity is 5 and the price, unit price is 10. So 10 into 5 would be 50. So that 50 would be locked in forever, right? Because the particular transaction will not change. So you will get the row by row value for each of the rows, and those values would be static, not dynamic. So calculated column is adding new column in your data model or in your particular table, getting static values, getting row by row values, and it always takes up the space in your data model. And it can be made by using Power Query editor. It can be made from the source as well, and it can be made with the help of DAX as well. But when I talk about the measures, so what are measures? So measures are dynamic calculations. It evaluates when you do the filtering of the data. So whenever you apply any kind of slicer, so it is a dynamic calculation. It changes with every interaction. So this is a dynamic calculation. This measures do not take space in your data. It evaluates on the query time, or I can say on the fly. So this is the main difference. Now let's get back to the model. So in the Power BI desktop. So this is a particular table. So if I show you the differences, so calculation type, so it evaluates during data loading time, but at query time it evaluates at query time. Storage, as I have told you earlier, it is stored in the data model. It takes up the storage, but it calculated on the fly. So it means it does not take any kind of space. Usage, so it always used in tables, slicers and visuals, used mainly in charts and visuals. So the main difference is that if you are setting up the slicer, so you would always require a column to add in the slicer, but you cannot add measure in the slicer. Evaluation formula, so it evaluates row by row and it aggregated over a table. Performance, so it increases the model size. It has a minimal impact. Best use case, so when you need row by row calculation, calculated column is your go-to feature, but when you are trying to aggregate the values, then the measures are your go-to tool. So how can you establish the measures and calculated columns? So let's talk about calculated column. I will go here in the data view. So suppose here I am having order quantity and unit price, and I need to calculate the total sales. So for each row I need to divide its respective quantity with the respective unit price. So here I need to do row by row calculation. So I can simply in what table I would like to add the column, I can right click and I can choose this new column feature. Once I do that, so it will allow me to write the definition for the new column. So I can say sales amount, and I can since it is getting evaluated row by row, so I can simply write total quantity and it should be multiplied with unit price. So this is how you can set up the calculated column. So you can see for each of the rows it has calculated the values for us. While we talk about the measures, so measures are the dynamic calculations. So let's suppose this is the total quantity and I have so I have used here total quantity. So this is dynamic, like suppose I want to find out the total quantity for this particular product, so I can select that, and now you can see it has changed. So measures are always dynamic. So this is the main logic behind calculated column and measure. Okay, so let's solve question number 6. What is Power Query and how it is used? So if you are familiar with Power BI desktop or you are working with Power BI, so you might know that there are different components of the Power BI. So there's a component Power Query editor where you can clean and transform your data. Then Power BI desktop where you can set the relationship between the tables. You can build your report by adding the visuals, bookmark, interactions and all. And then there is a Power BI services where you can deploy your Power BI reports and you can share with the end users. Okay, so these are the components of the Power BI. So here specifically like interviewer has asked about the Power Query editor, so you might answer like with by giving some practical examples. So Power Query editor, if I talk about it, so it is a tool to clean and transform the raw data, and so that it becomes ready for the analysis. It allows it gives us many kind of features without doing any coding. Just with the interface we can run those commands and we can shape our data. Like you can tell about your example, like when you would have used pivot, unpivot, merge, append, removing columns, removing rows, grouping, aggregating, or adding new columns. So there are a lot of, or I can say bunch of transformation that you can do with the help of Power Query editor. So you can give some specific example to the recruiter. Okay, so if I talk about more definitions, so the query editor is a Power BI, also known as a Power Query, is a tool used to clean, transform and shape your data before loading it into the Power BI for analysis. So it helps users to modify raw data without affecting the original source, right? So it may happen that in the original source you cannot do the transformation. So you can bring that data into the query editor. You can apply your transformations according to your requirement, and then you can load that data into the Power BI desktop and start building visualization. So this whole process, by getting the data, cleaning it, loading it, you can explain to the recruiter, or I can say to the interviewer, so that this proves your working capabilities like when it comes to Power BI. So yes, this is how you can answer this question. Okay, so let's solve question number 7 in our list. What is use relationship DAX function and explain with example. So this is also one of the frequently asked interview question. What is use relationship DAX function? So if you know, at a time between two tables, Power BI only allows one active relationship you can create, and if you are trying to create one more relationship between the tables, so you cannot activate that relationship at a time. Only one active relationship can be there. So like when you have the inactive relationship, so when you use relationship DAX function in your code, so it activates the relationship, that inactive relationship it activates for performing that particular calculation. So what do I mean by that? Let's jump into the Power Query editor and let me show you. So here if you see, I am showing year and month wise, which is like year and month, that is coming from the date table, and total sales, which is the sum of sales amount column. So I'm getting the values for each of the month. So if I look at the data model between those two tables, so you can see the data model has been established between the two tables, or I can say relationship is date and order date, and it is connected via one-to-many relationship. So it means that whatever the values I am seeing, it is based on the order date, because the order date is the active relationship between the tables. Now let's suppose, like how you can explain to the interviewer, if I want to show if I want to calculate the total sales, but not based on the order date but based on the ship date, like when the order was shipped. So for that, if I try to create the relationship between the tables, so here in the sales table I am having the ship date, and if I try to connect these two column, and it has picked up, and if I click this option which is make this relationship active, if I check this, so what it would say to me is that there are ambiguous path between the sales and date. So it means that there is already an active relationship between the tables. So whenever you will perform any kind of calculation and you will try to filter that based on the date. So if there are two active relationship in the table, so in the backend query will like take into consideration which relationship, because both of the relationship is active. It may be confused that in the visual, based on the order date I show the calculations, or based on the ship date I show the calculations. So that's why this becomes ambiguous, like which relationship to use. So that's why Power BI has given us this functionality, which is like the flexible way of doing this, which is just create the inactive relationship between your fields. So if I uncheck these, so you can see the inactive relationship has been created. So when the relationship is active, so it would be the straight line, no dotted line. But when there is an inactive relationship between your tables, so the line would be the dotted line, as you can see. Let me zoom in. Yeah, so this is a dotted line that represents the inactive relationship between the tables. Okay, so now you want to show total sales in your visual, but based on this relationship, which is date and ship date. So for doing that, let me tell you how can you do that. So I'm gonna go and create new measure, sales, and let's name this as ship date. So I can make use of calculate function. So whenever you are explaining about the user relationship, so please mention that you have to use calculate as well, because calculate is what allows you to use a user relationship in your DAX code. So here I can give the expression which is my total sales, and I would like to calculate it, but not on the basis of a ship order date, which is the active relationship, but based on the ship date. So I can use that particular relationship by using user relationship. So column name 1 would be date table date column. So here you have to pass both the tables that are involved in the relationship, so date table date and ship date from the sales table. Once you do that, and try to visualize the calculation, so you can clearly see that I'm having mismatch in the numbers, which is of course because of the two dates. Here in the October I'm having this total sales based on the order date just 5,61,000, but if I take into consideration the ship date, so the value is much different. So many times in the practical Power BI projects, you have to use these kind of functions, which is user relationship, to activate the inactive relationship. Yes, this is all about this question. Okay guys, so let's solve question number 8. How would you calculate the sales of the last year in Power BI using the time intelligence DAX functions? So time intelligence is a separate DAX functions category that allows you to do some time based calculations. So let's have a look. How can you calculate the last year sales using the time intelligence functions? So let's jump into the Power BI desktop. Okay, so here you can see I'm having the year and total sales, and I'm using the table visualization. So if I have to calculate the last year sales, so it means that if I am in the 2018, like my current row is the 2018, so I can see the 2017 data, 2017 sales in besides the 2018 sales. So like that. So how would I calculate the last year sale using the time intelligence function? So let me tell you. I will go here and I will click on this option, which is new measure. Okay, so let's name it as last year, which is LY, the abbreviation I am using. So I can make use of calculate function because I have to modify the current filter context and I have to give the new filters. So that's why I will use calculate function. So I have to calculate total sales, and in the filter argument I can use one simple function, which is separate last year, and it asks for the parameter date. So I can pass the date column. I can close this function, and if I visualize it, So you can clearly see that I am getting the last year sales. If I am in 2018, so I am getting the sales of 2017. If I am in 2019, I am getting the sales of 2018. So this is how which is the time intelligence function, which is same period last year. You can use it in your visual, and you can do the last year calculation. There is another function that you can use instead of same period last year, which is date aid. It asks for 3 parameters: dates. So dates is nothing but the continuous sets of the date, and you always get the continuous set of that in your date table. So you have to pass that column. Number of intervals. So here you can go do -1, because you have to go 1 year back, which is the last year, and in the interval you can give here year interval. Yes, and you can close this. So you can see no change. You can also use this function as well, right? So this is based on the time intelligence, right? Like you have used last year sales, and you are using date aid or same period last year, the time intelligence functions. But interviewer can also trick you, like if you show that with time intelligence this is how I can calculate the last year sales, but then the follow-up questions can come that without time intelligence how would you calculate the last year sales. So it's simple. Instead of using the time intelligence functions, you have to build your own logic. So what is that? So you can calculate total sales, and in the filter argument you can provide that the year column should be equal to, so date table year column, so this must be equal to the year that is currently been in the context. So the selected value function will give you the year that is currently in the context, and you can just give -1. So if like I'm in 2018, so it would give me 2017, and the total sales would be evaluated for the 2017. I can close this. So no change. Without time intelligence you can answer in this way. So this is all about this question. Okay, so let's solve question number 9. What is sync slicer feature, and how do you sync the slicers in Power BI? So sync slicer feature is when you have to sync the slicer across all the pages, the same slicer across all the pages. So it means that you have just connected all your slicers. So if you select one particular category in a slicer, so that selection will also be automatically transferred to the slicers, the same slicer present in another page. So what do I mean by that? Let's jump into the Power BI desktop and have a look. So here you can see I'm having page 2 and page 3 to report pages, and I'm having the year slicer on both the pages, right? So year and year, so this is the same slicer. Okay, so let's suppose I make some selections here, 2019. So my data is filtering, and here in page 3 I have to again select the 2019 to see the data, right? So sync slicer is a feature when you sync the slicer, so automatically your selection in a particular slicer will reflect in another page, right? So this is what the sync slicer, it means the connecting the slicers. So what are the ways of syncing your slicer, so that if you select one particular category in a slicer, so that selections also applies to another page, right? So how do you do that? So first is just copy and paste your slicer to other page. So I will remove this particular slicer from here, and here as you can see I am having 2019 selected. So I will copy this slicer, Control C, and I will paste it on another page, right? So here when you copy and paste the slicer, so by default you get an option, one or more of the copied visuals can stay in sync with the visual if it was copied from. So do you want to sync the slicer? So if you click sync, so your slicer will be connected. If you click don't sync, so your slicer would not be connected. So if I click here sync, so you can see Now my slicers are connected. If I make any selection or I change the selection to 2020, so here as well that selection will apply. So this is how you can sync the slicer. Another way is that suppose I again delete this. Let's add the slicer one more time, but this time I would not sync the slicer from here. Okay, so if I select 2019, so you can see the slicer is not synced, like there is no selection of 2019 over here. So one way is doing the slicer pane. So you have to go here in the view option, and from here you have to enable this sync slicer pane. Okay, now what you need to do, you need to just select your slicer that you have to sync. So here you can see, like in page 2 it is visible and in page 3 it is also visible, but this is not sync. So this is the option of sync and this is the option for visibility. So I am currently in page 2, so it is visible here, and like it is selected here, it is visible as well, but I can see in page 3 it is also present but not sync. So I have to just in this sync column I have to sync this particular slicer. So I have to click this, I have to just check this. Once I do that and make any selection, so you can see the slicer has been synced. So if you would tell two methods of syncing the slicer, so interviewer will impress, and it proves your capability of working within Power BI. So this is how you can answer this particular question. Okay guys, so with that we have come to the last question in our series, what is difference between DirectQuery and import mode. So these are the connectivity mode, or I can say the data connectivity modes that we have in the Power Query editor. So when I talk about the import mode, so import mode, it means that Power Query on premises keeps the copy of your data, and this is the performance optimized mode, like you have the best performance when you are using the import mode, and Power BI has like the copy of all your data in its environment. So whenever you pass any queries, so Power BI does not have to check the data source, it queries the data from the copy that it has in its environment, and this is what the import mode. But when I talk about the direct query, so direct query is what Power BI queries the data from the source itself, and it does not store any kind of copy of your data in its environment, but all the data is present in the source, and from the source Power Query editor Power BI queries the data and show the result in the visualization. It is not much performance optimized because you may have to wait for a couple of time to see the result in your visual. That's why direct query is not the very good option when you want the best performance, but it allows you to see up-to-date data, because in direct query there is no any kind of refreshes happens whenever it fetches the data from the data source, so it shows you up-to-date data in your visual. But when import mode you are using, so you have to schedule the data refresh, so it is not possible to always see the refreshed, or I can say the up-to-date data when you are in import mode. But in direct query you can see the up-to-date data. So I would suggest that you just go through this particular blog. I have put the link in this document, which I will share in the description, so you can have a look and you can read in detail about both the modes. And if you answer clearly about direct query and import mode and difference between both of the modes, so interviewer will definitely impress. So yes guys, this is all about the top 10 favorite Power BI interview questions. So I would suggest please mug up all these questions before appearing in your interviews, and this will definitely help you cracking the interviews. So yes, that's all about this video. I will see you in next video. Thank you for your time.